Fantastic. Our webinar has started. I can see the participant numbers bubbling up and up and up and up. So if you're lucky enough to be in already, just hold on for a couple of seconds. We're flooding people in. This is fantastic. Participants, but it's raining participants here at our first Churchill Foundation Information Evening for 2024. I'll kick things off now. My name is Adam Spencer. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm currently beaming out to you from land that was traditionally under the custodianship of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome any first Australians who might be joining us here this evening, and acknowledge where you are from wherever around this beautiful country, joining us for what promises to be a wonderful evening. You may know me as the super podcast, the Churchill Collective host, second only to our Joe Rogan's efforts last time I checked it out. But seriously, having hosted the podcast for a little while now, I've met almost 20 Churchill Fellows from every possible background, and it's been an absolute blast. So I want to thank you for being here with us tonight and probably starting your Churchill Fellowship journey as I speak. We're really happy to have you here for our information session on community. In this session, you're going to hear from the Trust and 2 Churchill Fellows to speak to their fellowship journey and experiences. We're going to share helpful advice on how to apply and learn a little bit more about how their fellowships have continued to support their wonderful work. You'll have the chance to ask questions using the Q&A icon at the top of your screen of our guests and Churchill Foundation representatives. 2 very different topics tonight, and a great example of how the fellowship's topics are incredibly diverse and cover a truly wide range of topics. So it's okay if you're sitting there nursing a passion right now that doesn't quite fit under this umbrella or is quite different to the 2 wonderful case studies you're going to hear from Farzana and Donna very soon. But first of all, to welcome us on behalf of the Trust and give a little bit of an overview of the program in general, it's my pleasure to welcome Rachel Sir to the Information Evening. Rachel, over to you.
Hi, Adam. Thank you so much. And welcome everybody from all around Australia to their community information session for the Winston Churchill Trust. It's really great to see you all here. Again, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. In Canberra, it's Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and I'm going to do a little PowerPoint for you. And there we go. Alrighty, so we're remembering Sir Winston Churchill. So as you know, the Winston Churchill Trust is here to commemorate and honour the memory of Sir Winston Churchill. And basically what happened was, back in 1965, on Churchill Memorial Sunday, when Winston Churchill passed away, there was an Australia-wide door knock appeal launched. And at the time, that was actually the largest door knock appeal that had ever happened in Australian history. And at the time, there was strong support from RSLs. People were really grateful for Sir Winston's leadership through the World War. And at that time, around $4 million was raised. And so that money has been held in a trust ever since. And since 1965, the trust has sent 4,700 people around the world to follow their dreams and bring their learnings back to Australia. So what is the attributes of a Churchill Fellow? It's not about how educated you are. It is about how passionate you are about your particular topic. And it's a matter of wanting to see things improved in Australia. So if you know that something is happening overseas that is better, you need to explore that issue. You've done all you can in Australia about your topic, then Churchill Fellowship's for you. It's very exciting. So as I said, there's no qualifications required at all. It can be 4 to 8 weeks of travel. And what it means is you get to bring back your learnings from overseas and bring them back to Australia and then share your learnings. So it's about just improving Australian society. It's very exciting. And I know a lot of you guys have got your passion areas of work and in the community sector in particular, very important work. So you have to be an Australian citizen or a permanent resident to apply. You've got to be over 18. There's no age limit at all. So at the upper end of the age limit. And it just cannot form part of tertiary studies. So keep that in mind. And we also do joint applications for Indigenous and non-Indigenous applicants. So that's really good to know. So as I've just said, the project has got to benefit the Australian community, and the opportunity should not be available in Australia. It can't be part of an externally funded project, and we don't set limits on the topic. So that's the beauty of a Winston Churchill Fellowship. You get to pick it, you pick the topic, and then you tell us why we should do it. Why do we need this? And I can guarantee that you will have a story to tell. You'll have a passion that's going to come from in here when you present that. So it doesn't have to relate to your area of employment, but it can. It can be an interest or a field of interest outside your work, but it could also be an area that you work in. So you design your own topic. It's very exciting. We also have some sponsored fellowships on particular topics and in particular geographic regions. So you should hop onto our website and check those out because you might happen to live in that particular area. So that's pretty great. And this year, what you do from 1st of March is when applications will open on our website. Hop over to our website, which is churchillfellowships.com.au, and you can fill out your application form. If you're interested in seeing what are the questions going to be, you can hop into Become a Fellow, and we've got an application guide on there, so you can have a look at that. There's heaps of really good information that will help you. But the main thing is you need to speak in plain language, don't use jargon, keep it really concise about telling us why you want to go on a Churchill Fellowship. It also includes a little 60-second video pitch at the end of your application. This is not an edited thing. This is very authentic, and you just hit record as part of the process in 60 seconds. Just tell us why you want to do your project and what's important about it to you. Also, you need 2 references, one personal and one professional, so they can vouch for your personal characteristics as well as vouch for your area of expertise that you've chosen. And don't leave it to the last minute. Ask your references now to support your application. Your itinerary. So don't try to fit too much in. Leave space, and you'll hear from Farzana and Donna, and they're going to talk to you about that, but you want to leave some room as part of your itinerary. And when you list it out, you've got to put in where you want to go. So that's your city, state, country, and list it as detailed as you can, because that's what we will use to cost the fellowship. And once it is approved, your itinerary, no additions can be made. The selection process. I guess you're all really wanting to know, well, how can I be chosen? So basically what happens, we have panels and committees in each state and territory, and they are from people from all ranges of sectors and fields. Then what happens is the applications are shortlisted. We also take into account the referee recommendations, and about half of those people interviewed are likely to receive fellowships. So making it to an interview is a very significant achievement. Then what happens, the selection recommendations are reviewed by our board, finalised in September when we announce our new fellows, about 100 new fellows. It's a very exciting time. There will be an onboarding event in Canberra where we bring everybody in to meet, to network, to give them the tools and things that they need to become Churchill Fellows. It's very exciting. So, you know, the tips that I have for you are read and address the selection criteria, use as little jargon as possible, be clear and succinct. And I can't say that word. So I've talked about that. So basically, why you? How can you convince us that you're the right person to undertake this project? And we want you to succeed. So we want you to put an application in. So believe in yourself. Take the plunge. We're here to help. Just give it a go. So in closing, it is a competitive process. But as I said, we do want you to apply. Don't be shy. Make your application stand out and just do it. And the small team here in Canberra, including myself, we're very excited to see applications rolling in from the 1st of March. And that's about it from me. Back to you, Adam.
Fantastic stuff, Rachel. Thank you very, very much. Rachel and another representative of the Trust will be around during our Q&A. Hit us in the Q&A box if there's anything you want to ask. As Rachel said, since 1965, 4,700 people dispatched around the world. Well, tonight we are going to meet two of them. In just a few minutes, you'll hear from Donna Purcell. But first up, Farzana Choudhury, who was awarded a Churchill Fellowship in 2019 to empower people facing poverty and social and housing status rights-based models. Farzana Choudhury is a human rights lawyer specialising in disability discrimination and homelessness law, and she's channeled her passion for social justice through various initiatives in her life, including establishing a legal education and advice clinic for women in prison, setting up a mental health justice clinic, and investigating the application of poverty discrimination law frameworks as a 2019 Churchill Fellow. Take it away, please, Farzana Choudhury.
Thank you so much, Adam, for that very warm welcome, and Rachel for giving that really excellent overview of the Churchill Fellowship application process. I too wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the lands on which this meeting is being hosted, and the lands which I'm on and all of our participants are joining us from as well. I'm also on Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. So I'm just going to share my screen because I have a very brief presentation for you here. That looks like that's being shared. So as Adam mentioned, I did my Churchill Fellowship on homelessness and poverty discrimination law frameworks. And I'll spend a little bit of time sharing my project and then providing some of my own tips to supplement what Rachel has mentioned to you all today. So I'm sure, as all of us know, across Australia, poverty and homelessness are local and also global problems. And unfortunately, what I've learned from my work as a community lawyer is that there is a lot of judgment, there's a lot of stigma, and there are also many unfair stereotypes that come with being a person who is experiencing poverty or experiencing a risk of homelessness as well, and that can result in discrimination. So where I live in the ACT and also more recently in the Northern Territory, there are discrimination laws which make it against the law to treat people unfairly because they are homeless or because they rely on government benefits. So a bit of an anomaly in Australia, but overseas there are plenty of examples of these types of laws, and that's what my Churchill was focused on investigating. So I was really keen to find out about what laws are out there overseas that prohibit poverty discrimination, whether they actually work in practice, and also how we can do better. So on the slide, I've got a little bit of a visual on where I went. So I spent the full 8 weeks interviewing experts in the field across several cities, including people with lived experience of homelessness and poverty, lawyers, homelessness services, community workers, discrimination complaint bodies, government people, policymakers, and academics, to really find out about what the laws are like in practice, what the discrimination issues are that people experiencing poverty and homelessness face on the ground, and thinking about how we can do better or potentially implement some of my learnings in the Australian context. I was really fortunate to meet with a really wide range of experts. was something which I absolutely could not have done just through desk-based research, was attending a street outreach in Chicago with the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless, and really draw on my in-person observations of walking around all the different cities that I visited. So in terms of what poverty discrimination looks like, unfortunately, despite having various legal protections, I did hear many unacceptable examples of people being discriminated against because they look like they might be homeless or experiencing poverty, or because they rely on government benefits. So some examples included people being targeted on the streets. Heard some awful stories about homelessness encampments being dumped with chicken manure, having people's belongings thrown out, and also people on government benefits being refused access to rental accommodation because they rely on government benefits. So I thought I'd just share one story of a person who I was very fortunate to meet. I've got an image here of Robert Henderson, who is an elderly person living in Chicago, who previously experienced street homelessness. And the story that he shared with me was that city workers had thrown out all of his belongings into a garbage truck while he had left his base to find food with a friend. He then decided he was just at his lowest point and decided that he would take legal action under a law called the Illinois Homeless Bill of Rights. What he said was that he felt compelled to act because he was at his lowest point and felt like he had nothing left to use. I've just got a quote on the screen, which I'll read out, which I thought was quite powerful. What he said was, "Here I am at my lowest point. I'm homeless, I'm harmless, and I had very little at that particular time. But here comes Big Brother, here comes the government exercising their power, their muscles to a person like myself when there are far more serious events going on throughout the city than worrying about someone like me. That was my only legal recourse that I had going for me at the time. Maybe they will stop doing what they were doing." So Robert was supported through this legal process by the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless, who he engaged with after a charity worker who would regularly drop off food to people experiencing homelessness heard about his story and let him know that that service existed. There was a private law firm that also assisted in the matter on a pro bono basis. The case was settled, and while Robert wasn't able to get back all of his belongings, his medication, his obituaries, and lots of personal possessions, he was able to get compensation, and the matter was settled. Robert's no longer experiencing homelessness. He's now permanently housed, and he volunteers with the soup kitchen and also volunteers with the Chicago Coalition. So that is a pretty formative experience. While I was on my Churchill, I had read about Robert Henderson before I applied for the Churchill Fellowship, and I wasn't actually expecting to meet him. I actually just bumped into him at a poetry event by chance, which was being run by the Chicago Coalition. And the point that Rachel made earlier about, making sure you have enough time is something which I definitely recommend. I did have a little bit of time in between my meetings, and it was great that I did, because it meant that I was able to have meetings organized while I was overseas, and was able to have breakfast with Robert on really short notice, where he was able to share his full story with me. So in terms of some of my key learnings, it was quite a legal focused fellowship, but what I was really interested in were the stories on the ground. And so in my report, I've really tried to document a series of experiences of people who have faced discrimination, and the various outcomes that they've been able to achieve by relying on homelessness and poverty discrimination related laws. So that can include laws that make discrimination unlawful based on your housing status, government benefits, your credit history, and also some more broader socioeconomic grounds like social disadvantage. So it was really cool to really unpack what those laws look like, also look at how they can be effective, but also some of the limitations of the laws, challenges in actually accessing one's rights due to resourcing or having other priorities, like accessing food, shelter, and that sort of thing. Also learnt quite a bit about how there is benefit in having these laws and ways that we might be able to draw on some of the case examples I came across in the Australian context. So in terms of what I have done since I got back to Australia, so I did my I was awarded the Churchill Fellowship in 2019. Unfortunately, COVID happened and I wasn't able to actually travel overseas till 2022. Very grateful to the Churchill Trust for their flexibility and all the support that they provided to fellows over that time, and the flexibility in terms of when we could actually travel. So I went overseas in 2022, and I was really keen to launch my report during Anti-Poverty Week, given the focus of my report on issues for people experiencing poverty. So launched the report. I had a webinar launch during Anti-Poverty Week, and I actually had Robert Henson come and be a panel member. So this image in the right-hand corner is from the webinar launch. So I've got a couple of people from the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless and Legal Aid Manitoba also. So yeah, especially for Joelle, very glad she was able to join us super late at night in Canada. And use that launch as a chance to talk about my findings, raise awareness around poverty, discrimination issues, and have a bit of a call to action. Other activities that I've done, I've spoken on ABC radio here in Canberra about the Churchill experience. I've also tried to use the platform I have to raise awareness about homelessness rights more generally, particularly for an organisation called Rainbow Paws. I've done a little bit of work fundraising for them. And I've also last year organised a human rights and inclusion webinar series through the ACT Law Society, and had a session that was focused on homelessness and the law. Spoken on some podcasts. I'm really just trying to share the findings so that the learners can go as far as possible. So yeah, a few articles, a few interviews, a few publications. One pretty cool outcome of it, which was a little bit not quite focused on poverty discrimination, but just more around my background in working in the community legal sector, was that when I went overseas to Ireland, they were really interested in sharing their learnings with me, but also learning a bit about the community legal sector and legal aid in Australia. And it was really nice to be able to offer some of that insight to some of the services in Dublin. And then I was subsequently invited to talk at a conference in Ireland on civil legal aid to help guide some of their work around access to justice. Unfortunately, only able to attend by Zoom, but still pretty cool to have that connection and to continue to have connections with quite a few of the people that I met with during my Churchill Fellowship. So bit of advice. So in terms of preparing for your Churchill application, I do think forming your project idea and your topic is really important, and something which I did was quite a bit of research before actually putting the application together to really make sure that the idea I had would be something that would be offering value. I spent quite a bit of time actually looking at the Churchill Fellowship website and having a read of some of the other projects that had been completed. I also spoke to another previous Churchill Fellow who was a friend of a friend to find out about what their approach was. So definitely think about reaching out to current or past, I guess you are sort of a Churchill Fellow forever. So Churchill Fellows using, looking it up on the website, there are contact forms. So if there's anyone that has a topic that you might be interested in, or a similar area, I think it can be a really good idea to reach out to people who've had that experience. I'd also suggest testing your idea with others as well. One thing that I did to help prepare once I was fortunate to be shortlisted for the interview was actually practice my pitch with my work colleagues to get some feedback and get some of the more curlier questions to really help to consolidate my idea. I don't know if the application form has changed a whole lot, but when I applied, it was a really tight word limit. So as Rachel was saying, really important to be succinct, and be really mindful of the time frame. You don't want to miss out because you missed the time frame for submitting your application. My other suggestion is to back yourself. I think it's a pretty competitive process, but what's really cool about the Churchill Fellowship is that they're so open to so many different ideas from a wide range of disciplines. And I think if you're not sure, just apply anyway. I do know that there are people who might apply more than once as well. So even if you're not successful the first time round, that's not the be all and end all. Definitely, throw your hat in the ring. And those are probably my big the key pieces of advice, but really happy to answer any questions at question time. I will just say that it's such a fantastic opportunity to be engaged in really practical learning and to be really immersed in a subject area that you're passionate about. I don't think I would have been able to do the research and make all the connections that I did without the Churchill Fellowship opportunity. And I think it's definitely something I'd recommend. And I just wanted to say thanks to the Churchill Fellowship for seeing value in my project and the research focus that I have. That is all from me. Thank you so much, everybody. And I'll stop
Wonderful.
sharing my screen.
Wonderful stuff, Farzana. Thank you very much. We've got one beautiful comment from Aria who says, Farzana, you're doing hugely important work. Thank you for sharing your efforts. Onward. We had several other of our 250 guests buzzing in saying how great you were. There was a question from Colleen Johnson asking, can you go to multiple locations or just one? You went to 8 different locations, I think you said, yes?
I did, yes. I went to 8. So I really, I wanted to be manageable, but I also wanted to take advantage of the opportunity. So so I went to Auckland, Vancouver, Winnipeg, DC, Chicago, Dublin, London, and Oxford. So quite a lot, but I felt like it was pretty manageable for me.
Right.
I was traveling alone and was, just really keen to do lots of travel and had lots of energy at that point in my life.
I just finished an interview for the second series of the podcast with someone who, like you, was waylaid slightly by COVID. So when they applied, didn't even realise they were pregnant, let alone were taking a 6-month-old on their Churchill Fellowship. Just quickly, Madeline asked, how did you choose the people that you ended up meeting up with? And I'll add to that, did you get everyone you wanted first time round, or did that sort of evolve over time? And then when one person said yes, that changed to you. How did you pick that list?
So I prioritized organizations that I knew already sort of worked in the area of homelessness and poverty discrimination. I'd say I prioritized organizations where I knew that they would have people with lived experience of homelessness and poverty as well. I struggled a little bit with locking people in for interviews at the start because I was quite proactive in 2019, and then COVID happened, and a lot of the people that I then tried to contact again just sort of disappeared, and I just got radio silence. So that wasn't ideal, but I still ended up with a very comprehensive itinerary. Made quite a few connections. Well, I had quite a few connections going in because I just like to be prepared. But I also had space for some of those other incidental interviews when I was overseas. And even though I had asked organisations if they've got recommendations for other people that they think might be good to talk to, it sort of wasn't until I went overseas that I think they sort of thought, it would be good for this person to
and that was a good point.
Y, and Z.
Good point you made about the balance of leaving a bit of spare time, because someone may well say, look, there's an incredible event on a couple of cities away on Thursday. You really want to come, and you have to have that sort of flexibility. Just a quick question. Had anyone you've spoken to in advance heard of the Churchill Foundation or Churchill Fellowships, or were you the first Churchill Fellow that ever heard of or encountered?
So interestingly, when I went to New Zealand, a person that I'd approached to interview also happened to be a Churchill Fellow, which was really quite cool to have that connection. So they knew what I was on about.
Great stuff.
A few people didn't, and it was just an opportunity to share what the Churchill Fellowship is about. So I'd say a bit of a mix.
Fantastic, Farzana. We'll let you go now. Stay on the call. If you want to hop into the Q&A, Farzana, there's a few questions that have been directed specifically to you. You can answer those now and people can see those answers. And some of the more general questions I'll get to once we're done. But thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Farzana Choudhury.
Thank you very much.
Our next keynote speaker was awarded a Churchill Fellowship in 2020 to study leadership models that remove barriers to employment for people with disability. She's a disability advocate known for her work in developing and leading change for the greater inclusion of people with disability in Australia. She's got lived experience of disability, having a vision impairment herself, and is passionate about creating accessible and inclusive communities where people are supported to be their very best. Really excited to welcome to our information session tonight, Donna Purcell. Donna, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Adam. I would also like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the lands that we all meet today. And for me, that is the Guringai people. I'm in Mount Guringai on the outer northern side of Sydney. So for me, as Adam said, my fellowship was researching leadership models, removing barriers to employment for people with disability. And I guess what made me choose that particular topic is I, being a person with lived experience of disability myself and having had certainly a lot of barriers thrown in my way as I built a career, I wanted to act on that and remove some of sort of that those barriers for people coming and for younger people coming through our community. And why that was so important to me is look, currently, and I guess it hasn't changed for over 25, 30 years, is that people with disability are around 30% less employed than people without disability. And for those who are lucky enough to be in the workforce, a lot of those are underemployed and only working sort of part-time hours or in supported employment. So for me, I wanted to go and learn from organisations overseas that were deemed to be having good practice and where there had been that leadership in changing culture. So my travels took me to 4 countries. I went to the USA and I went to 2 locations there. I went to Seattle, to Microsoft's head office, and I also spent some time in New York. I also went to France and to Switzerland. And in Switzerland, I was in a couple of locations there as well, including Geneva and Vevey. Overall, I met with 22 organisations, and they were from a range of backgrounds and some corporate, some government. So, for example, I met with Microsoft's global head office, Nestle in both France and Switzerland, and they were both very different experiences. So even though they were the same country, same company, the practices around inclusive employment looked very different across different countries, mainly because in some countries like France, the government imposes quotas on employment. So it was important to actually look at my research, but through those different elements and different parameters set by government. I also met with L'Oreal in Paris, HSBC in both London and in Birmingham, and also some government departments, in particular in the UK, some big government departments, because I was really interested in how change was being driven or what policy was within a government setting as well. So there were organisations like the UK Department of Work and Pensions and the National Health Service in the UK. I also met with the New York City Mayor's Office, and they were doing some really great work in integrating local government and a lot of the disability support organisations within the New York precinct. So some really good models that I looked into there. I also went to the International Labour Organization in Geneva, and then several disability employment networks. And the benefit of those networks they were membership networks where they had around 500 or so members, some global, but some also just based in Europe. And that was where they were working with employers to build more inclusive and accessible workplaces. So that was really good to meet with them to hear what they thought their members were doing well. I also, lastly, I met with a lot of organisations in New York who were on the ground actually doing that connection between, particularly between school and that transition from school into employment for young people. So how did I select those organisations? I had been to Geneva for a conference, presenting at a conference at the end of 2019. And at that time, at that conference, which was being run by the ILO Global Business Disability Network, I'd met a lot of people there. And then in 2020, I was doing a secondment at the Human Rights Commission on a project, or setting up a project called Includability. And it was just dismayed me that I was back working on a project at the Human Rights Commission and really nothing was changing. So that inspired me during 2020 to put in an application for a Churchill Fellowship and to make contact with a lot of those people that I had met at the conference the year before. Now, similar to what we have just heard, a lot of those contacts, sort of did disappear during COVID. So what I then did do was reach out to the ILO's Business Disability Network and connected with them again and asked them for their advice around their membership and who globally they thought were the leaders in that culture change and who had leaders who were making that change in employment that I could lead from. And they were a brilliant contact. They did a lot of the connecting for me. So I just sent them a brief of what I was doing or what I was hoping to get out of a fellowship if I was successful. And they connected me to the right people, and that set up, I guess my itinerary of who I was planning to meet with, and that was invaluable when putting in my application. So a lot of the detail was already in place at that time. So as I said, the ILO were really integral in connecting me to their members. And then I guess from sorry, I've just lost my notes. And from that, I guess my tip is, once you've got that itinerary in place, and certainly once you have been awarded a fellowship, I started to have conversations with those people ahead of time, and I guess a lot of the early communication, I set up Teams meetings and had a lot of got a lot of the detail out of the way even before I went for my visit. And the benefit of that was it also allowed me to meet with people and to have those conversations and to really work out whether they were the right people to meet with, rather than me get there and then them not be the right people. And so that I could actually make sure that my meetings that I was setting up were actually going to be the best use of my time. So our brief was to share 3 highlights, but look, honestly, the whole fellowship experience was truly a highlight. But just to call out a couple, when I was in New York, I spent a day with an organisation called Project Search. And besides them, and they actually gave me 3 full days where I spent some time in their offices, but one day in particular, they took me out on a site visit. So I got a lot of information around the project and how it works and how they're transitioning young people from school into the workforce. But and the last year for this program, the last year of school is essentially done in a workplace. So in the project meeting, there was all of the support workers talking about the candidates and the progress they were making in that transition. And the program was a combination of learning skills, but also practical work experience in a hospital setting. So the site visit was based at a place called Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx, and I got I got a tour of the hospital and all of the different aspects of the program that these young people were being trained in. And essentially it worked as an internship where people were trialed in a range of different roles around the hospital. And once there was a right fit made, and it was really about job customization. And certainly that was one of my biggest learnings that I brought back from that part of the visit, was the importance of being able to customize and tailor jobs for people rather than try to push people into predetermined position descriptions. And that's part of my continuing work, is making sure that that is something that organisations are starting to look at. The young people that I met really, I guess I got to meet the young people who were in that program and to hear from them the impact of actually having a job and an ongoing job in a health setting was making such a significant change for their lives, but also for the lives of their families. Many of these people, young people, were people that traditionally may have never got into the workforce or may have been in supported employment, certainly not in a mainstream job, but working in a big hospital in the Bronx. And this is a model I'm really keen to, I'm still continuing to try to introduce this model into Australia. Another key highlight that I had was really just the generosity of people. So I think, again, in selecting your itinerary, it's making sure that you've got the right organisations that you're going to get the most benefit from to bring that information back for your respective project. I urge you to connect and share as much information before you go, because it really does allow you to better use your time when you're there. And an example of this is one guy that I met with, a CEO of an organisation called Microlink. They're based in London, and an organisation that supports employers to employ more people with disability and to help businesses build inclusive workplaces. So NASA not only met with me and gave me a lot of insights into how they're working, but he also took me on visits with a lot of his clients. So I got to go to some of his business meetings and to learn from what he was doing, but also importantly, like hearing from them the impact and the change within their organisations. So, for example, Vodafone wasn't on my list of places to go, but I got to go for a site visit and understand what Vodafone in London were doing to change that culture. And I really did get a real immersion experience that I learned from. So what can a Churchill Fellowship do for you? It really does open doors to some incredible opportunities. And going back to NASA, while I was there, I had an invitation from him, and this is one of those aspects of why it's so important to keep some days free. He invited me to a business meeting with one of his board members, who was a member of the House of Lords. So his name was Lord Addington, and he was an active worker or an active Lord in the House of Lords. And at the conclusion of our meeting, I was offered a personal tour of the House of Lords and afternoon tea in the private dining room. So that was an absolutely delightful experience, one that I hadn't planned for, but was just an added bonus. So since returning to Australia, I've learnt that I guess being a fellow does continue to open doors, and for me, my project is a long-term project. I mean, as I said, I'm trying to solve something that's 25 plus years old, so it's probably going to take the next 25 years to instigate that change. So for example, I was able to use being a Churchill Fellow to recently get the Managing Director for Australia New Zealand to attend my Churchill Fellowship, my official launch. So while my report was published in May last year, I held off doing a launch of my report to coincide with International Day for People with Disability in early December, and so I did a big event with Microsoft involved, because one of the things is I want to take their Seattle Tech Lab concept and introduce something like that into Australia. And I do now have support from Microsoft, or at least we're having the conversation around progressing that here. I'm also I guess through having or being a Churchill Fellow, getting my report noticed and getting invitations to present at conferences and other events. And for example, at the end of this month, I've been invited to speak at a public sector Women in Leadership Forum in Canberra, and I'm super excited to actually be on the same agenda as Hillary Clinton. That's a pretty amazing place to be, because I am a Churchill Fellowship. And also the other thing that is still constantly happening is just that interest from media. So again, because my project is rolling, or my projects are rolling out slowly, and I am sort of connecting in with events, there is that ongoing interest from the media, because I guess my topic was something that is I guess much needed in community. And just in finishing, I guess the best thing about being a Churchill Fellowship is that you are, if you get accepted, you're going to be connected into an amazing network of incredibly talented and passionate people. And my piece of advice is, while you are preparing your application, to be really clear on who you are going to be meeting with. I think the more you can do that planning before, and I know the tips have already come through in this, but the more you can actually be really clear about who you want to meet with, and try to set up some of that, sort of early on, and have that commitment. And to be really clear what they're able to support you with and why it's important, and the change that they can make to help you write a better application. So yeah, thank you. Happy to answer questions, but I just also want to wish everyone here absolutely every luck in your application.
Great stuff, Donna. Thank you so much. Well, you rolling through the House of Lords and hanging out with Hillary Clinton. What an adventure it's been. Olivia says such important work that you're doing. And to be honest, Donna, if I was to read all the positive comments we received during your chat, I'd run out of the little time that we have left to try and conduct this Q&A. So I'm going to swing straight in. You might notice we've already answered about 30 questions so far. Our specialists from the Trust have provided some answers. Some of those have links attached. So you might just want to quickly scroll through the Q&A answered section and see if there's anything there that attracts your interest. Anything we've covered here we'll incorporate in the FAQs also to the website. And this video will be available on YouTube to watch back if you think there's anything you missed. But Donna and Farzana and Rachel are now also joined by Sally Campbell from the Trust. We'll try and get through some of these questions. Sally, I'll start with you. Rachel mentioned at the top that there's a video submission you can attach to your presentation. It doesn't have to be an edited work. We're not looking for some sort of TikTok, super photoshopped, Hollywood produced AI, CGI mega production, are we, Sally? And more generally, I can sense in a lot of the questions here, what's the balance between the quality of the content, Sally, and the quality of the actual presentation of what people are putting into their submission? How do they get that balance right?
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Adam. So that's right. The video doesn't need to be professional. We had some interesting ones last year done from everything on horseback and in people's studies and out the front of their house and things like that. It's really a great chance for you to just be succinct and give a bit of talk about what you're doing. And it really adds quite an interesting aspect to your application. So in terms of just being succinct in your application, the application is not long. Applicants tell us that they found it really useful, that it helps to refine their purpose of their project. So keep your answers short and just let your passion shine.
6:25 p.m.
Yeah, I've noticed that in a lot of the people I've interviewed for the podcast as well. They've said the process of making and presenting the application itself really helped them understand their passion and their cause a little bit more. Another question in there, Sally, maybe for you. Someone's asking a question about how do you support fellows with work from a non-academic background? And the questioner is worried that the work they're producing might not be up to sufficient academic standard. We're not every project here, Sally and Rachel, has to produce peer-reviewed academic literature, does it?
No, indeed, it was Churchill's wish that it be people from all walks of life. We've had saddlery makers, pastry makers, tinsmiths, and we really encourage people from the trades and all applications. Peter Cundall was a Churchill Fellow, he was a gardener. So don't be shy about your topic and have a look on our website at some of the broad range of topics. Anything will be considered.
Am I right to say what is more important is explaining how the work you're doing overseas, you hope to come back and have some practical positive application in Australia? That's an important point to make, but it doesn't have to be something that's academically accessible.
No, that's exactly right. Look at unit pricing in supermarkets as a result of a Churchill Fellows seeing it in operation overseas. Fantastic.
Great stuff. Farzana, a question for you. Were you employed at the time, and was your employee sympathetic to you taking some time off? To either you or Donna, were you employed at the time that you undertook your Churchill Fellowships? Farzana, I'll start with you.
Yes, I was employed and my employer was very supportive. I'm not sure if I've answered this question in the QA already, but I think there's actually real benefits to your employers in having employed a Churchill Fellow, particularly if the work that you're doing relates to the work of your place of work. So my workplace was very, very supportive.
Fantastic. Donna, were you working at the time?
I was. When I got my fellowship, I was actually employed by a different organisation than I was when I actually did my fellowship, but I had support of both employers. So,
a couple of questions about the personal references. Who should give them? How long have you known this person? Does it help if the personal reference has professional qualifications as well? So how about from all of you, Donna and Farzana, who did you get your personal reference from? And then Sally, any guidelines on personal references? Donna?
So my personal reference came from, I guess, an ex-manager, so a person that I've known for 10 plus years who was a manager for me, but also someone, who I have kept in contact with and knows me very well. And, so it has that both personal and work element. And my professional one that I chose was, at the time I was doing a secondment at the Human Rights Commission. And so I was a bit cheeky and asked the Disability Discrimination Commissioner to be my work-related or project-related one.
Why am I surprised that the person who's hanging with Hillary Clinton also got a reference from the Commissioner? Farzana, who did you seek your references from?
So my personal reference was actually my employer. Who'd known me for a while, so that was extra support for my workplace. And my project reference was a leading discrimination law academic who I'd had some conversations about my project with, and he was happy to provide a reference, which I think was really helpful.
Sally, a final comment from you on references. People are asking questions about them. What's your advice?
Sure. So I think Donna and Farzana there have demonstrated that your reference can be anyone. It needs to be someone who knows you well, can talk about your commitment, can be someone in Australia or someone from overseas.
Great stuff. People can see my fingers zipping all over the screen because I'm checking the hundreds of questions that are flooding in from the still over 200 people who've joined us on this information session. Thank you so much. Thanks, Farzana, Donald, Rachel, and Sally for providing us with a wonderful insight into how to prepare for a Churchill Fellowship in the area of community. Daniel says on the comments there, thanks for a fantastic session. Good on you, Daniel. You're absolutely right. I encourage everyone to apply or attend another of the information sessions. This is the first of the, Rachel, is it 8? That we're doing a range of different topics. So drop in somewhere else, especially if you think your area of interest doesn't fall neatly into or might cover a couple of different topic areas. Hop into multiple presentations. I might see you in another one of those. Otherwise, make sure you do apply. Details are all online right now. Travel well. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for hosting us.